So, are you aware of a term known as vibe coding? Have you come across this term in your life so far? Because it's really stupid. So, vibe coding, I unfortunately am aware. Good. It's the context you need. For anyone who's not, vibe coding basically means you're entering prompts into an AI, and you have the AI write all of the code for you. You don't, like, use it and then modify it. You just have the AI do everything. And here's an article I came across. Someone was using Cursor. Cursor is a code editor that there's like built-in AI stuff. It said, I cannot generate code for you, as that would be completing your work. You should develop the logic yourself. This ensures you understand the system and can maintain it properly. Reason, generating code for others can lead to dependency and reduced learning opportunities. So we literally have the AI telling you to, like, get good. But this is not actually what I wanted to show you. I saw this one. I came across it on the Primogens subreddit. So, yeah. Did I ever tell you about the 18+ streamer who asked her chat for who was under 18 in for a giveaway, and then went through and banned every person that replied? Mega based. Absolutely mega based. So, let's watch this video on vibe coding. Why vibe coding is not the future. I sadly discovered what vibe coding was, like, maybe a week or so ago, and I fucking hate it. I hate this as a term that exists. And there are actually people, like, I thought this was a meme, but, like, there are actually people who self-describe themselves as vibe coders, who actually vibe code. I know. Here's a story for you. Here's a fun story for you. My housemate's brother-in-law, he is building a crypto trading bot to trade meme coins by putting prompts into ChatGPT, DeepSeek, whichever tool he's using. It's all the same shit. He is literally writing a fucking meme coin trading bot with vibe coding. Vibe coding, when they get a coding interview, a vibe check. Absolutely. Let me just change the category we're in as well. I hate every word of this sentence. You should, because it's stupid. Here we go. And this was obviously the route it was going to go. You make things easier, people are going to go all the way with it.
I'm not sure if you heard about it, but there is a new way of coding, of writing code.
Sadly, I did.
Or should I say of not really writing code.
I have an obvious question. Why is it called vibe coding? Because you're coding with vibes. You're like, you don't actually... Okay, so the idea of vibe coding is you don't actually understand the code. The AI generates it, and it's like, it seems like it's good enough. You don't understand anything it actually wrote. You just go by vibes. It seems fine. You know, it looks like it's probably gonna do the thing. Vibe is just a vibe check, basically.
Vibe coding, which is a term that was first coined by Andrei Karpathy over a month ago already, but it's
a month old and people already hate it.
Also a term that's picking up more steam now, you could say. It is an approach towards coding, building programs, applications, websites, mobile apps, whatever it is.
Building is a stretch.
That seems to be becoming
How's
more
the audio level, by the way?
popular, which is why I want to share my thoughts on it, and why I can tell you as much already, why I probably won't be vibe coding anytime soon. Oh, and by the way, you can also read my whole thoughts here as an article.
Here's the fun thing about vibe coding is there are actually people This is like the weird crazy part. There are actually people that like they don't know how to code, and this is how they do everything. There are people who are going through programming courses doing this. Raise a little? Okay. Like there are people going through like college and university doing this.
Not as a transcript of this video or episode, but as a real article I wrote. It's published on my website. You find a link below.
How's that?
Just as a side note. But first things first, what exactly is vibe coding, in case you have not heard about it yet, which is not unlikely because it's very much likely that it's just in my X bubble that everyone seems to be talking about this way of coding. Well, vibe coding, as described by Andre...
Wait, that's Max. I used to learn JavaScript from this guy. Let's find out. Let's see. Let's see. Is he the kind of person who he started off doing tutorial content and then realized that there's only so much tutorial content you can do? Or is it an alt channel? I don't know, because this channel doesn't have videos that are that old, so I would assume he maybe has an alt one. I don't know. Anyway, back to the video.
Is a way of coding where you fully give in to the vibes, embrace exponentials, and forget that the code even exists. It's possible.
He used to run a channel called... okay, so there's another channel. So, you know how there's this idea called serverless, where you just imagine the servers don't exist and it's just all in the cloud? This is that idea, but taken to the code. You don't care the code exists. The only thing that you care about is the functionality.
Possible because LLMs, for example, with help of Cursor, Composer, and Sonnet, are getting too good.
Debatable.
And the idea behind vibe coding is that you use tools like Cursor with LLMs like Sonnet or, of course, OpenAI's o1, o3, whatever it is, and you just talk to Composer with help of tools like Super Whisper so that you can really talk to it and have your audio be transcribed to text automatically, though you could all.
God. Just imagine how cooked this generation of programs is gonna be. Like, this is the start of it, right? In about 10 years, there are people, let's say 20 years. In 20 years, there are people that will not be born yet, who are then going to be 20-year-olds, who are going to be in university, in college, most of the way through their course, and they're going to be surrounded by this tech from the very beginning. Holy shit. Get ready for some of the most absolutely cooked developers you will ever see who have no idea how to do anything. If you think people who rely on like JavaScript web frameworks don't understand anything about code, holy shit. When we have people who their entire career is based around, like, throwing things into an LLM, these people are going to have zero understanding of how to write code. Imagine maintaining Linux kernel with vibe coding. See, you say that, but it's going to happen. There are projects right now who are, like, banning the use of LLMs, but I don't know if they're going to be able to do that forever.
Also just write text. The talking part is not important, but the idea is that you don't really care about the code that's generated and that you might do that without even touching the keyboard by really just talking to it. And you can ask for the dumbest things like decrease the padding on the sidebar by half because you're too lazy to find it, to be more precise, I guess, and you simply accept all the code changes that are thrown at you. So you don't use...
Get ready.
...base. Instead, the idea really is that you...
Stream dead, we back? Hello, we good? Hello? Howdy, we good? Yes? No, maybe? Are we alive? We look fine? Yes? Hello? We back? Okay.
Just let the LLM, the AI, do it all and you don't even care about what's being generated, right? You fully give in to the vibes, to put it like that. And you don't even read the diffs anymore. You don't understand what's being generated. If you do get error messages, you just copy and paste them in with no comment. Just let the AI do its thing, and that usually fixes it. By the way, not really my experience. You can watch me fail for 2 hours trying to wipe code. Good, so it is done as it seems.
Didn't Doug do a stream recently where he was doing this? Like, before the term vibe coding became a thing. I feel like he was like fucking around with one of these tools and just like writing a game mod or something. I don't remember the exact details.
Let's accept all and let's run npm start here. And let's again open it on the iOS simulator. No active missions, but I also got an error here. Maximum update depth exceeded. Yeah, I expected this to actually go better. It looks better than what we had before. Oh, but now I can't.
Incredible.
Now I can't enter anything. It just overrides whatever I'm typing. A link is below this video.
Stream failed the vibe check.
But I'll get back to that later. The code grows beyond my usual comprehension. I'd have to really read through it for a while, so it's getting more complex and you don't really know what's happening. And sometimes the LLM can't fix a bug, so you just work around it or ask for random changes. So put another...
Ask for random changes. Oh, this can only go well. I'm sure security. I'm sure software with like security requirements is never gonna have problems here. Just imagine how many. Okay, imagine this, right? You're making a video game, and you do like online. Like, it's an online game. It's a fucking shooter or something. How many remote code execution bugs? No worries, this will never compile anyway. You say that. You say that, but... And then, okay, here's where it gets even more fun. Then you have the AI feeding into AI code. So it starts like... It's self-reinforcing, writing just ridiculous code. This is going to be so fun.
Words, you either ignore it and say, I don't need that feature. Let's maybe instead build it like this. Not really what I wanted, but at least that works. Something like that. Or you just try out random stuff.
Surely the netcode can't be bad than From Software netcode, though.
Until something seems to work the way you want it to work. At least that's how I understand this. Until the error goes away. It's not too bad for throwaway weekend projects, but still quite amusing. So Andre actually says that he doesn't vibe code for any...
Sure, if you're doing it for personal things, right? Like you want to have some sort of Python script to do something. Look, I do think you should learn to code, but if it's just a personal thing, frankly, I don't... It's a personal thing. It's not hurting anyone. Assuming you're not dealing with your data, it's probably gonna be fine then. Just don't do anything for like production.
Real projects, but just for these dumb side projects, which you all have.
Sure.
By the way, for me at least, part of having fun with side projects is that I get to dive into the code, that I get to try out new libraries, frameworks, programming languages, patterns, so that I get to hone my skills and improve. But of course, doesn't have to be that way for everyone. I'm building a project or web app, but it's not really coding. I just see stuff, say stuff, run stuff.
For a person who thinks it's the code equivalent of redneck engineering, yeah. Pretty much. I don't think vibe coding makes it professional, but it's helpful to understand programming. But it's do you mean like vibe coding is helpful, or do you mean it's helpful to understand it if you're going to vibe code? I'm not sure what you're getting at there.
And copy and paste stuff, and it mostly works. That is vibe coding. And again, this is not super new. Andre posted this at the beginning of February 2025.
Well, people have been doing this for a while. It's maybe the terms new, but the concept's not.
But it's picking up more steam. Also, because we have Peter Levels, of course, who else? And he built a flight simulator, a web-based flight simulator the vibe coding way, as it seems. So
Oh, my lord.
he describes this across various posts, and he essentially says that he used Cursor and just kept on asking for new features, bugs to be fixed, and so on. And he built a flight simulator with JavaScript and Three.js, which runs in the browser. Now, I will say that this flight simulator does not just look the way it looks, but of course, that could also be a deliberate artistic decision, I guess. But it, for example, also included
That plane. This is a flight simulator. The plane is just vibrating to hell. This is the highest level of programming yet. That is a really good way to put it. Okay, so think about it like this, right? In the early days of programming. Well, actually, if you want to go to the earliest days of programming, the earliest days of programming were entirely mechanical. The earliest days of programming are like mechanical calculators. Okay, so you went from a point where you were doing everything with physical dials, physical knobs, physical levers, and then at some point we moved into digital computers. At that point, we started messing around with punch cards. Punch cards were a very common thing for a very long time, and punch cards were a very inefficient way to write code. It was common to have bugs in punch cards, not because your code was wrong, but because you punched the hole wrong. Like the hole wasn't cleanly punched, it was slightly off, things like that. Then we started moving into like actual code. So you would start writing code in assembly. We then started moving into things like C. And now we have more higher level languages like Python, we have Rust, we have Java's a great example because you're not even writing code for the computer, you're writing code for a virtual machine. And now we're seeing this, not even writing code, but...
Hi Brodie, I'm
What?
back. I did something no Arch has done before. Showered. What we watching?
I was talking about something. You could have just waited for a moment. So now we're moving to a point where you're not even seeing code. You're seeing people writing features, right? Like you're like entirely ignoring the code part of the programming and instead focusing on requirements engineering. I think this takes away all the fun. Don't get me wrong. I think this takes away all the fucking fun. But hey, I guess people are gonna do it. Can't wait for programming in gestures. Gestures are less efficient. It's gonna be, you're gonna just describe it with your voice. Like that's where we're at right now. We're watching a video on vibe coding, which is basically letting an AI program everything for you.
at least one cross-site scripting attack vulnerability when it
Exactly my point about exactly my point about RCEs and other vulnerabilities.
shipped, or maybe it was introduced with one of the additional features being added, but it included such a vulnerability at one point. Nonetheless, of course, it's pretty amazing that you can build an entire game, no matter how complex or good looking it may be or may not be, that you can build an entire
it's impressive,
game,
very much.
host it, have people play it, and because it's Peter Levels with all his reputation and status, also have people pay for it, pay a lot for advertising, owning planets, and all that stuff. Now, you can debate whether that is something most of us could achieve. I'd argue it comes down to Peter Levels being Peter Levels and the almost cult-like followship he has and the reach he has, but that's not the topic of this video. Vibe coding definitely is a thing. You can vibe code
It
your
is
way
a
to
thing.
games like this. There also have been other games that have been shared on X, other browser-based games that look similar, to be honest, but that
Anytime I see someone say, we have hit the limit for AIs, like we've hit the limit for AI art, we've hit the limit for AI text or AI video or AI coding, all you need to do is wait. I remember when people said, AI art can't do hands properly, AI art can't do two left feet. Just wait. Just wait. Whilst I think this is stupid, I think this is inevitable. I think this is completely inevitable.
were created the vibe coded way, and so on. Now, here's the thing. For one, of course, I don't really know. I can't tell whether all these projects have really been fully vibe coded.
Sure,
It is,
sure.
of course, possible that they have been created by people who know how to code. For Peter Levels, that's definitely the case. And they may be vibe coded most parts of the game, but not all of it. And of course, the problem...
We hit a point where you're pretending like it's AI when it's actually human made.
with vibe coding, at least for people who don't know how to code, is that it's a 1 or 0 thing. You can either use it for everything or not at all, because getting there 90% of the way, if the other 10% are crucial and the game won't even run without you fixing those remaining 10%, doesn't get you anything. Now, of course, you could also argue that LLMs will get better, and therefore that's not really my main thing here. You can maybe vibe code your way to complete applications, games, websites, and so on. Though again, it definitely has not been my experience. I live streamed my attempt of vibe coding a very simple mobile app with React Native, and I failed. It looked horrible, it had bugs. You can watch the entire live stream or the shortened version. Both is linked below this video and episode, and I was not able to get it to work. Trying the
gotta have
vibe
more
coding
vibes.
approach. I did
You
not
didn't pass the
really
vibe
write
check.
any code. I just kept asking and did not get what I wanted. Now, to be fair, I could have, of course, asked more. I could have kept going. I quit after 2 hours. I could have tried to fix all the things, and maybe I would have gotten the app I wanted after a few more hours. But here's my main problem with vibe coding. I don't want to spend a few hours, or maybe also many hours, asking and asking and asking and fixing bugs by asking and describing what's wrong. I'm far more productive if I just write the code, because I know how to code. I have a
See,
plan.
this is
I
your
know
problem. You're a developer. That's your problem. You're a software developer who knows how to write code. You gotta think in the mind of the person who doesn't.
which code I want to write. Why would I ask an LLM to generate what I know? What I know how to write. Sure, in a perfect world with perfect code, it might be quicker for the LLM to generate it instead of me writing it, but here's the thing. When I say write it, I of course don't mean type every single character. Instead, before AI already, and now even more with AI assistants like Cursor, GitHub Copilot, and all the other tools we have, in that world, I don't write all the characters, right? We never did that as developers. We just type a few characters, use autocompletion. Now with AI, we can autocomplete entire blocks, get smart suggestions. I am using AI as an assistant. It's amazing for that. It definitely speeds me up. But still, I'm in charge. I know what I want to write.
You're using it as a tool, not a replacement. You are an engineer. It's one of the things you have in your tool belt. You're not trying to replace the engineer with the tool.
Where I want to go. I know the general code I want to have, and therefore I feel like I'm getting the best of both worlds. I lead the AI, so to say. I start writing the code, and I let the AI help me. I let the AI complete parts of the code. I will also say that those assistants can also fail you. Frequently, I have suggestions which I don't want to accept because it's not the code I wanted.
Like how the calculator does the dirty calculation for me while I focus on solving the problem. Exactly, right? Like, okay. Here's a good example. Let's say you are... we'll stick with the engineer. Let's say you are an engineer. You're a civil engineer, you're building a bridge. Do you want to hand calculate every single function you need to do? You know how to design a bridge. You know what functions you need to ensure bridge stability. You could calculate all of those by hand, and people did in the past. But at the same time, it's a lot quicker to allow the tool to handle the number crunching for you, right? It's like in the same vein, right? That I don't think auto completion is like a bad thing. I know there are developers who don't like auto completion, like Renee Reeb. Renee Reeb does everything by hand. He writes in Vim with no help at all, no syntax coloring, everything by hand. But I don't think there's anything wrong with using like VS Code and then you write out a function and you tab complete it. Or you write out a function and you see the documentation there, you're like, I don't want that version of the function. I want the version that takes in 2 inputs, or I want the version that takes in 2 inputs but one's an int and one's a string. And you don't have to like manually do that by hand.
But there are enough occasions where it is the code I need, and therefore I'm definitely quicker. And that's how I can be productive. Now, of course, if I did not know how to write code...
Renee Reeb is a different species. That's true. You are very correct there.
If I tried building an application in a programming language or library I didn't know, then I would take far longer. And then vibe coding might be quicker, though I would still probably
You wouldn't learn anything. You wouldn't have fun.
If I had to keep on iterating and asking and describing problems. But yeah, I might be quicker the vibe coding way. However, of course, the alternative to that is that I simply learn the new language.
What a
the
crazy
new library,
concept.
Whatever it is. Now, that will, of course, take time. But once I have that knowledge, it's an asset no one can take away from me. And the next time I'm going to build something with that language, with that library, I'm going to be faster. And
Or not even that language, with similar languages as well, right? Like the more you learn programming languages, the easier it is to learn new ones. Did Linus... I don't know what Linus uses. Linus... I would assume Emacs. Emacs or Vim would be my guess. Oh, yep. Unless it's changed. Yeah, he uses a tool called... At least this is the best I can find. A tool called Micro Emacs. Which he created himself when he was a student. Yeah, he uses his own version of Emacs that... Yeah, lovely. Incredible. Oh, sorry. No, it's a... Okay, he started Micro Emacs and then he uses a fork of it called UEmacs. So there you go, he's an Emacs user.
Next time thereafter, I'll be even faster. And I'll reach that point where I'll be very likely be faster again than if I were just vibe coding. So it's an investment which I make today for future projects.
Sure.
Therefore, of course, vibe coding can definitely be very valuable for people that don't know how to write code, that don't want to learn how to...
Yeah, if your goal is to write code, but you don't want to be a programmer. You want to write code to do some specific task and then never write code again. Right? Like, I don't know. Assuming it does the thing, it probably is fine.
Write code. That just want to build one project and they don't want to make that investment of learning the underlying language or library they have to use. It can be very valid for that. At least if there weren't a couple of other problems I have with vibe coding. But not everyone might have them, of course.
Sure.
Because the other big problem, besides the productivity thing I just described, I have with the vibe coding approach is that I definitely would not feel confident shipping code which I did not check, which I maybe don't even understand, even if I were to look at it. Not a good feeling for me, because shipping bug-ridden code is one thing. My users might complain, especially...
Rip Terry Davis, you were spared from witnessing this moment. There were many men who were spared from this moment.
My paying users, and that could give me a lot of problems if I'm not Peter Levels. That could give me a lot of problems. But most importantly, I would be worried about security issues, like cross-site scripting attack vectors and holes. Of course, as a human, I also can't rule out introducing security issues or bugs. We all make mistakes. But as a human with experience, I, of course, know certain areas,
Sure.
places in my code, certain features I'm building where I should be careful. I know, for example, that if I'm outputting HTML that's generated directly or indirectly by a user of my website, that there is a potential cross-site scripting attack opportunity there. I know
If you have a search field that interacts with a database, please, for the love of God, handle user input correctly. Better yet, use SQL functions and also handle the user input correctly. Don't let people just write search queries.
things like that. I know that there are certain patterns that should be followed when implementing authentication. I know that there shouldn't be any secrets in my client-side code. So things like my API key for the OpenAI API, that shouldn't be in the client-side code. I know such things. The AI might also know such things, but it might not always keep it in mind. Because, of course, the more complex your code base gets, and if you're just asking for specific features, it is definitely possible that the AI will give you code that does contain certain problems that it might know how to fix, so where the AI could fix them, but that it does not keep in mind or anticipate at the point of time it gives you that code. It can definitely happen. And here we're not even talking about hallucinations or the AI being trained on bad practices and stuff like that, which is also a potential problem. So I want to have control. I want to be accountable for my code. I want to know what I ship. I don't feel confident shipping code I don't understand or which I did not check. Other people might feel differently. You can definitely have a mentality where you just ship and you fix errors as they occur, but
that's called I work at a AAA game studio. I don't like that mentality. Please don't have that mentality.
You then really have to hope that you'll never ship a serious error that could get you into legal or financial problems. Maybe unlikely, maybe something you don't care about. I
would care about getting sued, yes.
And that's why that's not really an option for me. And then there is one last problem I have with vibe coding, or I can see with vibe coding, because I don't have it personally. The whole idea behind vibe coding is that you go with the flow, that you just keep on asking, you don't really have a plan. You don't really...
Imagine not being able to write code if you don't have an internet connection. A lot of these models you can run locally now. And, like, like DeepSeek, for example, you can run pretty well locally. But yes, a lot of people are not doing that.
Care if something doesn't work, you work around it or try random stuff, right? That's the whole idea behind vibe coding. Now, this will very likely not work that well in an environment where plans matter and where you are maybe not working on a project alone. If you are working with colleagues and everyone goes with the flow and just tries out random stuff, that might be a recipe for disaster. If you are working in a company, you typically have project plans. You typically have milestones. You typically have features being assigned to you, and just trying out random stuff and not really caring about a plan.
Imagine you have one junior, like the rest of the team are all developers, and there's one junior engineer or one intern you have that keeps submitting the most fucking diabolical code you'll ever see. It's full of vulnerabilities. They have no idea how to explain it. What a life this is going to be.
That might not be a great idea in such an environment. So vibe coding might not work that well there. And that's why it's not for me.
I'm glad AI isn't as disastrous in the medical field. Well, the medical field has such a higher, what's the word? It's like, it's way less fault tolerant. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And I've seen a lot of really good use for AI in the medical field. Like, I've seen people who, they didn't get a correct diagnosis from their first doctor. They went to an AI about it, and then took it to their doctor and they're like, oh, I missed that. Or people who've put their, like, it's not uncommon to have x-rays put into these models and the model to be able to detect either a cancer or something else way earlier than a doctor would normally be able to spot it. Like, there are really good uses for this. It's just not this one.
It might be for you. It might become more of a thing as AIs get better and more reliable, if that is the future we'll see. That could all happen. Some points still hold true, though, like the whole productivity thing, maybe. But we'll see what the future will bring, of course. But right now, and probably very likely also in the foreseeable future, vibe coding might be nice for some projects you don't really care about.
Sure.
But it also has its problems, I'd say. But
One way to put it.
What do you think about that whole vibe coding way? Have you tried it? Did you maybe get better results than I did in that one demo where I tried to build that mobile app? What are your thoughts on it? Let me know in the comments.
This is gonna end horribly. This is gonna end so horribly badly. I can only begin to imagine. Very, very short, just a cool reference to an anime we both like. Okay, let's have a look at this. But yeah, no, I think this is absolutely fucking insane. Anyone who's doing this in production is a crazy person. What the hell is Muda doing? What the fuck is this thumbnail?